He stood when the judge walked in. So did I. Grayson smoothed his tie. Callie crossed her legs like she was at brunch. I didn't say a word. I had nothing left to say. Their lawyer started first. Calm voice, clean suit. He called me a risk to herself and others. He said I'd left the stove on twice, that I confused names, that I asked the same question more than once at dinner. They had affidavits, from a doctor I'd never seen, from a neighbor who waved to me once. Signs of early dementia, the lawyer said. Financial missteps, wandering, disorientation. We asked the court to place her under temporary guardianship held by her son, Mr. Grayson Keller. I looked at my hands. Steady. Clean nails. I hadn't missed a bill payment in 30 years. Do you contest this, Mrs. Keller? The judge asked. I opened my mouth. Nothing came. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I knew they'd already rehearsed the win. Every word I spoke would sound confused next to their polished lies. Callie leaned toward Grayson, whispered something, smiled. The judge nodded. Gavel down. Temporary guardianship granted. Just like that. My house, my accounts, my name on the deed, all signed away in that one sentence. I stood too fast. The bailiff stepped toward me like I might snap. I didn't. I walked out of the courtroom alone. Outside, the wind cut straight through my coat. I had one bag, a cloth tote from the hospital where I used to work. Inside ID, a bottle of aspirin, 2 folded letters from my brother Marco, and the keys to a house that wasn't mine anymore. I sat on the courthouse steps. My knees ached. My mouth tasted like pennies. I took out my phone. No messages. I texted Tess. No reply. I called my neighbor Joan. Voicemail. Grayson stepped out of the building with Callie on his arm. She kissed his cheek. He didn't even glance at me. They walked straight past like I was air. I watched them get into my car. Not theirs, mine. The black SUV I'd paid off last spring. They didn't look back. I sat there until the light faded, until the street lamp buzzed on and the courthouse doors locked behind me. Then I walked. Block after block. Past shuttered shops and glowing living rooms I didn't belong to. I found a bench near the train depot. Sat down. Pulled the coat tighter. Listened to the buzz of neon and the scrape of my own shoes against the curb. A man passed by, looked down, looked away. No one asked if I was okay. I opened Marco's first letter, read it again. I didn't cry. Inside the envelope folded into the crease was a receipt I hadn't noticed before, a deposit box. His signature. It wasn't dated, but the number was still legible. I slid it back into the tote bag and gripped it tighter. Morning would come, and I needed coffee. I tossed the plastic bag onto the bench and sat down, hard. My knees popped. My back screamed. I ignored both. I pulled out my phone. The screen lit up. No service. I moved 3 steps left. Tried again. Bars flickered. Dialed Tess. Voicemail. I tried Linda next. We'd worked together 22 years. She used to call me her second mother. Straight to voicemail. I scrolled through the rest. Names I hadn't used in months or years. Some rang, some didn't. None picked up. I stared at the screen, then turned it off. I wasn't sure what hurt worse, being humiliated in court or realizing no one wanted to be seen picking up. I stayed on the bench, pulled my coat tighter. My stomach growled low and mean. Didn't matter. I had $8. Couldn't waste it. A woman passed with her child. She looked at me, hesitated, then tugged the boy's hand harder. I wasn't even speaking. I wasn't begging. I was just there. Streetlight flickered. I shifted. Across the lot I saw a fast food place with a flickering open sign. I stood, walked. The wind cut sharper near the glass. I stepped inside. Warm air. Fry oil. Too many stairs. I ordered black coffee, paid in cash, Sat in the farthest corner. Two teenagers snickered. One pointed at my bag. I didn't meet their eyes. Just held the coffee. Let the heat settle in my hands. Steam rose. I didn't sip. I just needed something warm to hold. Marco's letter peeked out from the bag. His handwriting always leaned slightly left. Slanted, like it knew something before the rest of us did. I'd read it 4 times already. Still couldn't believe the line. If this ever finds you broken, remember it's not over. The receipt number, the deposit box. The name M. Keller scribbled in block letters beside it. I didn't know what was in that box. I didn't care if it was empty. It was his, and it was waiting. I stayed in that booth until the manager mopped near my feet. I took the hint. Back to the bench. I folded my coat under my neck. Used the plastic bag as a pillow. Marco's letter stayed clutched to my chest like a heat pack. The cold settled in slow. Crept through my shoes into my spine. My breath fogged the air above me. I closed my eyes. Let the noise fade the traffic, the buzzing lights, the echo of my own name disappearing from everyone's mouth. Morning cracked gray. Pigeons tapped along the sidewalk near my shoes. I sat up. Back stiff. Mouth dry. The deposit number pulsed in my head like a code I wasn't allowed to forget. I gripped the receipt again and forced myself to stand. I slammed the coins on the counter. The cashier raised her eyebrows. I didn't flinch. 1 black coffee. That's all I said. She typed it in. The register beeped like it didn't care either way. I took the cup, didn't wait for change. The cafe was too warm, too bright. Tables lined with couples and laptops. I found a spot in the corner by the window, sat with my back to the wall. Steam rose from the cup. My hands ached from the cold. The smell helped. A little. Years ago, I used to stop at this same place on my way home from overnight shifts. Always brought Grayson a plain donut, glazed if they had none. He'd be curled on the couch legs too long for it, eyes half open. Thought I heard your car, he'd mumble. He'd take the donut without looking up. No thank you. Just bit into it like he expected it. I thought that was love back then. Habit dressed as affection. Now I sat in the same spot. No donut. No home to return to. The cup in front of me felt heavier than it should have. A woman got in line. Blonde. Pressed blouse. I recognized her. Melissa Jennings. PTA. Used to organize coat drives. I sewed name tags for her daughter's recital dresses. She didn't look at me. Not once. Walked past coffee in hand and sat near the fireplace with someone younger. Laughed too loud. I kept still. My face burned anyway. I stirred the coffee even though I hadn't added anything. I used to think small kindnesses mattered. That if you showed up for people, they'd remember. That your name stayed in their mouth at least a little while after you left the room. Turns out it's not the kindness that sticks. It's how useful you are. I stayed an hour. Maybe more. No one asked me to leave. No one asked anything. I refolded Marco's letter, tucked it under the lid of the coffee cup, like a reminder you're not done. Then I stood. Took the last sip. The bottom had gone cold. Bitter. I drank it anyway. Outside, the sky was spitting rain. I pulled my coat tighter, turned toward the street, and kept walking. The bank was 12 blocks south. I didn't check the time. My shoes were already soaked. I wiped rain off my glasses and checked my phone. One message. A video. From Marcy, the neighbor across the street. No words, just the clip. I hit play. Callie twirled in my kitchen, wearing heels too high, holding a glass of white wine. The camera panned Grayson near the oven, laughing. 4 other people I didn't know sat at the table I bought after my second raise. The chairs were mismatched now. The walls had new paint. Callie lifted her glass. To new beginnings, she said. We finally got the place to ourselves. Grayson clinked glasses. Someone off-screen asked where the old woman went. Callie didn't hesitate. Gone. Finally. That crazy hag's gone. Laughter. The kind that makes you lean forward, slap the table, cover your mouth while you pretend it's not mean. I paused the video. My hands didn't shake. They curled. I'd scrubbed that kitchen floor on my knees every winter, replaced the cabinets, painted the trim after Grayson spilled punch during his 8th birthday. I'd bought those forks, those napkins. I stared at the screen. The video ended with Callie kissing Grayson's cheek and whispering, "We're finally free." Free of what? Of the woman who covered their mortgage for 6 months after Grayson lost his job? Of the woman who stayed silent when they forgot my birthday, 2 years in a row? Of the woman who gave them the down payment for that house because they promised to repay it in love? I sat back on the bench outside the bank. Let the cold soak through. My socks were still wet. My coat still clung with yesterday's wind. I didn't cry. I watched the clip again. Just once. Then I deleted it. Not because I forgave them, but because I didn't need more proof. They weren't confused. They weren't misled. I pulled the music box from the bottom of the tote and flipped it over. There it was. A strip of old tape, yellowed and curling at the edges. Tucked behind it, a key thin brass numbered. I hadn't seen it in years. Marco gave me that box when we were both still in our 30s. It played something soft, no lyrics, just quiet notes that never quite resolved. I hadn't opened it since the day he died. The key matched the number on the receipt. I didn't wait. I walked 4 blocks to the branch he used. Still there. Still dull, still blue, still humming with stale carpet and old printer ink. They made me sign a log. Show ID? Wait. When the vault door swung open, the clerk led me down the row. Slot 118. The key slid in smooth. Inside a plain manila envelope. Thick. No label. Taped shut. I opened it right there on the little metal table. First a notarized trust document. My name, his signature, a full list of assets, property deed, account statements, then a note, folded in half. My name across the front. No salutation inside. Just, if you're reading this, they failed you. He'd dated it 2 months before his death. The trust is real. The house is yours. The accounts are under your maiden name. If they come for you, this will wait. Let them show their teeth, then take the leash. I read it twice, sat back. The walls hummed. My breath felt thick. He'd known. Somehow he'd known. Marco never liked Grayson, not since the wedding, not after the first lie. He called it, said Callie had ambition that rotted. I told him to stop talking like that, told him he was harsh, bitter, wrong. But he wasn't. He'd seen what I couldn't let myself see. And he'd prepared for it. Not to save me from pain, but to give me power after the pain proved itself. I tucked the papers back into the envelope, signed the exit sheet, walked out of the vault slower than I'd gone in. The wind had dropped. The rain, too. Just a stillness in the air like something was waiting. I walked back toward the cafe, the envelope pressed tight to my side. I passed a charity table on the corner. One of the women handing out flyers glanced at me, then away. I didn't stop. I didn't need coffee anymore. I needed a printer, a folder, a plan, and a lawyer who didn't know my son. I tore the second envelope open with my teeth. The seal cracked clean. Inside another letter. Longhand. Dense ink. Folded with precision only Marco ever bothered with. I sat on the edge of the motel bed, lights, off envelope in one hand, pen in the other. Old habits. I always took notes when things got too big to process. He started with a date, just 3 weeks before he died. Lorraine, if this reaches you, they've taken more than I hoped they would. I read slowly. My chest tightened. I'm leaving you the Westbrook property. The house, the land, and the accounts tied to it. They total just over $20 million across investments and remaining liquid assets. all held under your maiden name. I blinked hard. But there's a condition. You can't touch a cent unless you do one thing live in the house for 90 consecutive days alone. No visitors. No calls to Grayson. No outside interference. On the 91st morning, open the binder in the main study. Then decide what happens next. He underlined it. Once. You'll understand why when you get there. Let them underestimate you. Let them show you who they are. Then burn the mask. I folded the letter again. Pressed it flat with my palm. He knew me too well. Knew I'd want to run. Knew I'd want revenge early. Knew I'd waste it if I moved too fast. I looked around the room. Peeling wallpaper. Dim lamp. One plastic chair. Grayson thought I had nowhere left to go. Callie thought they'd locked the door behind me for good. Neither of them knew Marco had built another door. Quietly. Carefully. Just for me. I reached for my phone. Searched. Carol Lawyer's name. She still practiced. Independent now, office downtown, small firm. I called. It rang twice. A woman answered. Not a secretary, her. Ms. Keller, she said before I even introduced myself. I told her everything. Fast. Clear. No fluff. She said, pack. I'll have the documents waiting. I ended the call, sat still, let the silence hang. 90 days. That was all. I grabbed the envelope, zipped the tote shut, and pulled on my shoes. The night air was sharp, but I moved fast. Bus station 2 blocks west. I'd sleep on the ride. There was a mansion waiting. With locked doors, cold rooms, and a binder I wasn't allowed to open yet. I dialed 10 numbers before noon. 3 disconnected. 4 rang, then dropped. 2 went straight to voicemail. I left 1 message. Just 1. It's Lorraine Keller. I stopped myself. Erased it. Started over. This is Lorraine. I'm reaching out. I didn't explain why. Didn't mention court eviction or the plastic bag I used as a suitcase. If they cared, they'd call back. I stared at my contact list. Names I once invited to Thanksgiving. Co-workers I covered shifts for. People I sat beside at funerals. People who borrowed sugar and never returned the container. I called Reverend Mallory last. His secretary answered. Said he was out for the week. Offered prayer instead. I thanked her. Hung up. Outside the house, wind pushed hard through the trees. The mansion sat like a cold thing on a hill, too big for silence, too still for comfort. I didn't unpack. Just stood in the foyer and watched dust settle. The phone buzzed once. Unknown number. I picked up fast. Lorraine? I froze. Tess. She laughed. You still remember my voice. It had been years, maybe more. She was thinner now, judging by the profile photo that popped up when I saved the contact. Sharper in tone, but her voice still held shape. Still felt like one of the last solid things I hadn't lost. I heard what happened, she said. I didn't want to reach out until I was sure it was safe. I didn't ask what she meant by safe. I already knew. I read Marco's letter, I said. She let out a breath. Then you know what's at stake. Not everything. You're not supposed to yet. Silence stretched. I'm alone in the house, I said. Finally. No calls. No visitors. That was the deal. Tess didn't argue. She only said 90 days. Then you read the binder. I have a sealed copy too, just in case. In case what? In case you never make it to day 90. Her voice didn't shake. Mine did. You think they'll come? I asked. They already did once. I didn't answer. She continued, quieter now. Marco was careful. He didn't want revenge. He wanted clarity. You were always the only one who didn't want anything from him. I swallowed hard. I'd forgotten that. I'm still here, Tess said. If you need anything that doesn't break the terms, I'm on your side. The line went dead. I stared at the phone a long time, then put it face down. No more calls. Not for now. I turned toward the staircase. The second floor waited. So did the locked study. I'd unpack in the morning. Tonight, I just needed to find a bed that didn't remember me. I slammed the phone shut. Carol, my old attorney, wouldn't take my calls anymore. Last week, she'd promised to review my case. This week, her secretary said she was too busy. Busy meant bought. Busy meant Grayson's check had landed in her office. I didn't waste more time. Tess called back the same night. Lorraine, she said, calm, direct. You need someone who won't fold when your son waves a stack of money. I met her in a diner 2 towns over. She slid a card across the table. Roland Bishop, a lawyer with a sharp pen and no patience for corruption. He worked with Marco on property filings. Trust him, Tess said. Roland didn't ask for tea or pleasantries. He ordered coffee black and asked me one question. Do you still have anything they don't know about? I pulled the music box from my bag. The key Marco taped inside was still there. Roland nodded. Then we start with that. The next morning we went to the county recorder's office. The clerk eyed me like I was invisible until Roland flashed his badge. A sealed envelope was waiting in storage left by Marco months before his death. My name written in his hand. I opened it at the counter. Inside a silent power of attorney, notarized and airtight. Not to Grayson, not to Callie. To me, under my maiden name, untouched by the trial filings. Roland leaned over my shoulder, scanning fast. This changes everything. They thought they stripped you bare. They missed this. My hands trembled. Not from fear this time, but from recognition. Marco had planned for their betrayal. He knew the kind of people they were, even when I refused to see it. Roland folded the document, tucked it into a clean folder, and slid it back to me. Keep this close. We don't show it yet. Not until they're certain they've won. I gripped the folder tight. For weeks I had walked like a shadow. Now, for the first time, I felt weight in my hands again. That night, I lay on the cot in the shelter, the folder under my pillow. Sleep didn't come. My mind replayed Carol's silence. Grayson's smirk, Callie's laugh, but louder than all of it was Marco's handwriting on that envelope. I finally closed my eyes at dawn, knowing the paper trail no longer led where they expected. And tomorrow, I would test just how far it reached. I logged in. Roland gave me the credentials quietly passed under the table. No paper, no trail. One-time access only. Marco's instructions. 3 accounts popped up, each labeled under L.A. Hendricks. My name before I ever became Lorraine Keller. The balances hit me like a slap. 8 figures total. Real. Untouched. Marco had moved everything after that last fight with Grayson. The one I brushed off. The one where Grayson yelled, "You owe me everything." Marco had never told me what he did afterward. He just asked if I still trusted my son. I'd said yes. Fool. Now I saw the answer. Marco never gave out loud. I opened the first folder labeled Statements. Inside, every month from the past 5 years. Clean activity. Nothing unusual. Then I clicked the next folder, Discrepancies. It started small bank authorizations I didn't remember. A $12,000 withdrawal on a joint line Grayson and I closed years ago. My signature looked off. A little too clean. I never looped the R like that. Next, a loan application with my name attached. Home equity. Forged signature. Used as collateral on a property I didn't even know existed. Then another luxury renovation fees on a condo in Miami. All billed to a ghost card tied to my Social Security number. The same card I supposedly canceled when I retired. Each file pulled another layer off the lie. Every time I had stepped in to help Grayson, he'd taken a little more than I gave. When he said just a small form I signed without reading. When he said they need a cosigner, I nodded and trusted. He didn't need my trust. He needed my name. Marco knew. He'd hired a private investigator 6 months before his death. I opened the scan emails between Marco and the man detailing Grayson's trail. forged checks, ghost accounts, payments to consultants for a business idea that never launched. I printed everything, one by one. Every receipt, every forged form, every transaction that bled me dry while I smiled through it. The stack grew. I found the insurance forms next. Grayson had taken out a life policy on me. Small, but real. Just enough to pay off a car or wipe a credit card balance. The beneficiary wasn't even listed as family. It was C. Keller, Callie. I stopped breathing for a second. Then I printed that too. Roland had warned me, don't move too fast. Don't file yet. Don't confront. But the binder was building. Quiet, thick sharp at the corners. I labeled it in ink, LK Private. I slid the last page inside, snapped the clips shut, and set it down beside the silent power of attorney. 2 binders, 2 stories. And Grayson had no idea either one existed. I unlatched the door fast. The knock had been steady 3 quick raps, then silence. Not urgent, not hesitant, just placed like whoever stood there already knew I'd answer. The man was in his 40s, trim coat, worn shoes, folders tucked under his arm. Not a courier, not local. "Lorraine Hendricks," he asked. I nodded. Tight. He offered no smile, no hand. "I'm here on Marco's instructions." I stepped aside, said nothing. Led him into the sitting room. He set the folders down on the table like they were heavy. "I work private side," he said. "Your brother hired me last year. Said he wanted eyes on anyone touching his assets, especially your son." My throat dried. "You're the one in the email chain." He gave a short nod. "Marco said not to come unless it got ugly." I watched from a distance. Bank moves, real estate flips. Loans. Asset stripping. Quiet but constant. He opened the first folder. Dozens of photos. Grayson at a notary. Grayson at a lawyer's office. Grayson at the bank, always alone, always signing. This one, he said, sliding over a document. "That's your signature. Or it's supposed to be." I stared. The loops were too perfect. Too round. Mine always slanted. "Callie delivered it herself," he added. "Didn't know she was being watched." I sat down. He pushed a second folder toward me. This one has it all. Paper trail. Forgery timeline. Even audio from 2 meetings between Grayson and a real estate broker planning to liquidate assets you still legally own. "Can this hold in court?" I asked, voice low. "If you want court," he said yes. I looked at him. But Marco didn't want revenge, he continued. He wanted options. He pulled out a final item, a sealed white envelope. No writing. Thick. This, he said, was written 2 weeks before he died. He told me to deliver it if the investigation confirmed what he feared. "You don't have to open it now. But when you do, it'll tell you exactly what he wanted done, and what he wanted you to choose." I reached for it. Heavy. Warm from his coat. He said you'd know when. He stood, didn't linger, didn't ask for anything. "Be careful who you trust next," he said. On the way out, I locked the door behind him, carried the envelope to the study. 3 binders, 1 envelope, all mine. But only one would decide what came next. I drilled the first camera into the crown molding. It clicked into place clean. Covered the entryway, the hallway, the front room. No one would walk in without being seen. I placed the second behind the bookshelf angled toward the couch. The third faced the dining table. That's where they'd sit. I tested each one. Audio clean, feed secure, saved straight to the encrypted drive Roland gave me. Then I printed statements, signatures, loans, charges to cards I never opened. I cross-checked every file in the binder with the documents Marco's investigator had delivered, lined them up by date, highlighted them. Next, voicemail logs. I had 6 from Callie over the years. Sweet tone, fake warmth. Buried in them were requests. Pushes. Just use your name for this one. It's easier if you co-sign, it's just formality. I clipped them. Time-stamped each. Labeled the files by her own words. Then I wrote the guest list. No holiday dinner, no stiff confrontation, just brunch. Mid-morning. Safe. Inviting. The kind of event Callie wouldn't turn down. The kind of setting Grayson would walk into confident, already expecting the head of the table. I addressed the envelopes by hand. No email, no text. People respond better to paper. Tess. Roland. The PI he agreed to come. 3 old friends from my past who knew what my name used to mean before Grayson bent it. And of course the 2 seats saved for the couple who took everything. I circled the date. 10 days out. Not too far. Not too close. Just enough time to finish setting the trap. I folded the letters. Stacked them by the door. Coffee brewed behind me. When it finished, I poured a cup. Sat down at the table and reviewed the footage from the front room. Clear. Crisp. My voice steady. I watched myself walk through the house. 1 binder under my arm. No one else in frame. Just the quiet hum of the house returning to me. I closed the laptop. Carried the cup to the sink. Stared out the window. The house no longer felt hollow. It felt ready. I walked to the mailbox just after sunrise. No driver, no assistant. I wanted the cold air. The street empty. The envelope in my hand heavy not from weight, but meaning. Grayson and Callie would receive it by morning. Cream-colored cardstock. Raised black ink. Simple. Evening reception. Saturday 7 p.m. The Hartwell Estate. Formal attire, no lawyers, just family. No RSVP required. They'd show up, of course they would. Back inside, I stood at the kitchen counter, hands pressed flat. The coffee dripped slow. Steady. I didn't touch it. I just watched the pot fill. Across the table, Tess sorted through name cards. You sure about this? I nodded. They think I'm surrendering. Let them. Tess held up the guest list. You want to include Mr. Darnell. He testified against me, but he's respected. That's exactly why I want him there. She didn't push back, just made a note. Upstairs, I opened the closet. Picked the dark green dress I wore to Marco's memorial. No sparkle, no flash. Just quiet memory stitched into every seam. I laid it out on the bed. Smoothed the sleeves. Sat beside it. My phone buzzed. Voicemail. Callie. I didn't answer. I waited for the tone. Played it on speaker. Wow. Guess she's finally ready to hand it over. Took her long enough. You think she'll sign that night? Grayson's voice low. She won't fight. Not in public. Click. I saved the message. Filed it under a folder labeled Proof Part I. Tess walked in a few minutes later. Held up the mock seating chart. Do you want them front and center? No, I said. Put them near the fireplace. Good lighting. Clear audio. She blinked once. You're serious. I looked her dead in the eye. I was serious the moment they called me unfit. This is just logistics. She adjusted the names, and the speech I won't give one. Tess hesitated. People expect you to say something. I shook my head. Let them talk. Let them tell everyone what they think I'm about to do. Silence stretched. Then I added, the truth lands harder when they've already laughed. She didn't argue again. By nightfall, everything was in place. The caterers confirmed. The lighting crew installed hidden mics in the dining room and foyer. Roland would arrive early. The PI would blend in with the servers. All quiet, all clean. At 9:12 p.m., I stood at the threshold of the study. The binder was on the desk. The deed, the forged loan copies, the signature overlays, all labeled, stacked, sealed, and numbered tabs. I opened the drawer beneath it, pulled out the photo of Grayson at 12, smiling, holding a ribbon from the county fair. He looked proud, not cruel. I put it away. Then I took a pen, wrote a single line on the notepad beside the evidence. Don't raise your voice. Raise the room. I clicked off the light. Tomorrow, they'd walk into a party. They just wouldn't know whose. I shut the study door at 9 sharp. Roland laid his case file flat on the desk. Tess pulled out the seating chart and set it between us. No coffee, no small talk, just the weight of the day pressing down. We start neutral, Roland said. You open the room, you let them speak first. I nodded, my pulse steady. They'll gloat. Let them. Tess tapped her notes. When Callie laughs, don't answer. Just wait. The recording plays after her first jab. That's your moment. Roland slid a page forward. This is the sequence clip of her mocking you. Then the receipts, then the forged signature, and last, the deed transfer error. Do not change the order. It matters. I studied the sheet. Memorized the steps. Every click, every pause. I repeated them aloud until my voice carried no tremor. Tess walked to the far side of the table. Pretend I'm Callie, she said, lifting her chin, smirking. Well, isn't this charming? She finally admits she can't keep up. I stared at her, unblinking. Then reached for the laptop, tapped the imaginary key. Play. Roland leaned in. Good. No reaction. Just the proof. Tess pushed harder. She's too old to manage a house like this. It's time she handed it to someone who can. Receipts, I said flatly, sliding the folder across. My voice didn't crack. Roland checked his watch. Timing, 3 seconds after her last word. No faster, no slower. We ran it again, and again. I didn't miss a beat. By the 5th run, Tess frowned. You're too calm. That's the point I said. Calm cuts deeper. Roland leaned back. When the forged signature comes up, look straight at Grayson, not Callie. He'll fold first. I pictured his face, the boy who used to run home with scraped knees, now sitting at my table with lies in his pocket. My chest burned, but I didn't blink. Tess lowered her papers. And when it's over, I closed the binder with a snap. Then I ask why they're still standing in my house. Silence. Both of them stared at me. No corrections this time. Roland packed his folder. Tess gathered the seating cards. They didn't say good luck. They knew I didn't need it. When the door closed behind them, I reset every chair around the dining table. Checked the angles. Tested the microphones. Walked through the steps alone one last time. By the time the clock struck noon, I could play the entire confrontation in my head line for line without a single word spoken aloud. The storm was ready, and I kept my face still. I lit every lamp. The chandelier glared bright overhead. Crystal clinked. Silverware aligned. No shadows, no softness. Every inch of the house gleamed as if untouched by betrayal. Guests arrived, dressed for reconciliation. Pearls pocket squares. Polished shoes. They greeted me with cautious smiles, unsure what this evening meant. I returned each nod with quiet steadiness. Grayson and Callie entered at 7:45. She wore velvet like a coronation. He wore arrogance stitched into every step. They didn't greet me. They went straight to the guests. She's finally ready to let it go, Callie told someone near the wine cart. This house is more than she can manage. Grayson adjusted his cufflink. It'll be smoother now. Everything's in better hands. They laughed. Their kind of laugh, shallow, rehearsed, greedy. I stayed near the dining room doors, gave no toast, offered no welcome, just watched. Tess passed behind me. They're saying you surrendered. Let them, I whispered. Mr. Darnell approached near the mantel. They told everyone you handed it over willingly, he said, eyes soft with pity. I didn't answer. I turned, walked calmly to the side table. The laptop waited, already queued. I tapped one key. The room didn't fall silent all at once. It slowed. Voices dropped, heads tilted. The screen came alive. Callie's voice filled the room. Wow. Guess she's finally ready to hand it over. Took her long enough. Laughter followed. Grayson's voice next. She won't fight? Not in public. Then silence. Then the second clip. This time video. Callie sneering over coffee weeks earlier. Crazy hag's finally gone? We've got the place. Gasps. A clink of glass. I stepped forward. Picked up the binder Tess had placed beside the flowers. Loan disbursement from my name, I said, laying down a copy. Withdrawals authorized with my forged signature. I added, placing the second. Title transfer rejected. I finished revealing the final document. Because I never signed it, Grayson's face dropped. Callie stepped back. This house, I said clearly, slowly, was never theirs. Eyes turned. Voices scattered. I didn't yell. I didn't shake. I let the evidence speak louder than any accusation. Callie tried to grab Grayson's sleeve. He didn't move. Roland stepped forward from the back wall. All notarized, he said. All filed. A neighbor whispered to her husband. She never gave it up. Another said, she's taking it back. Tess stood behind the bar. Arms folded, eyes calm. I looked across the room at them, at everyone. Then I said, the line we had rehearsed. So if this house isn't yours, I turned my eyes back to Grayson. Why are you still standing in it? I snapped the binder shut. The sound cracked across the dining room like a gavel. Every eye turned to Grayson and Callie. They stood pinned against the fireplace, cornered by their own silence. Callie was first to break. She forced a laugh, high and brittle. You're all being fooled. She's confused. She's been slipping for years. I didn't flinch. I tapped the screen. The projector came alive again, rolling the clip of her voice. Crazy hag's finally gone. We've got the place. Gasps scattered through the room. A neighbor muttered. I heard her say that once. Grayson's face drained. He tried to step forward, palms out. She's editing these? My mother. She's not well. Roland rose from his chair, calm and sharp. Every file is authenticated, notarized. Each signature examined by 2 independent experts. This isn't confusion, it's fraud. Callie snapped back. That's a lie. The PI stepped from the wall, sliding a photo across the table. Grayson in a notary's office. Callie passing him a pen. The date stamped in the corner. The room shifted. Guests leaned away from them. The air turned heavy, judgment pressing in. Mr. Darnell's voice cut through. You told us she gave it up willingly. She did, Callie shouted. She didn't want the responsibility enough, I said. My voice steady, clear. You lied, you stole, you forged, and you threw me into the street to cover your debts. Grayson's mouth opened, but no words came. His eyes darted across the guests, searching for one ally. None moved. Tess spoke, measured. This house was never yours. This name was never yours to soil. The silence after her words burned. Callie slammed her glass onto the mantel. Wine splattered the stone. She hissed at Grayson. Say something he couldn't. I took a step forward. You looked at me in court and called me unfit. You said I didn't deserve a home. Tonight, everyone here sees who really doesn't belong. A woman near the back whispered, She's right. Another nodded louder this time. Disgraceful. The murmur spread until it was a wall of condemnation. Every whisper, another stone thrown. Grayson tugged Callie's arm. We're leaving. You think this is over? She spat. Her eyes locked on me, sharp shaking. You think people will still believe you tomorrow? I held her gaze. They already do. Their exit was fast, graceless. The door slammed, echoing down the hall. The house grew quiet again. Guests stayed seated, still stunned. All eyes drifted back to me. I stood taller, binder in hand, steady as stone, and I knew the reckoning had only begun. I forwarded the documents at 9 a.m. sharp. By noon, the mortgage division flagged the title. At 4:37 p.m., the call reached Grayson. Not from me, from the bank. The footage came from a lobby camera. Tess had arranged for it to be sent over. No sound, just the timestamp and his face. He sat stiff, one hand gripping the phone, the other on his knee, white-knuckled. The woman behind the desk didn't smile. She nodded, once stood, and walked into the back. Grayson didn't follow. He just stared forward like someone waiting for a sentence. Tess leaned over my shoulder as I watched the clip. That's the look of someone realizing the money stopped being magic. I didn't say anything. Just let it loop once more. That evening, Roland sent an update. The bank initiated internal review. The house isn't transferable. No future liens. No loans. The claim is frozen. Good, I said. The phone didn't ring. Grayson didn't call. Neither did Callie. But 2 nights later, Tess texted, "Packing. Back porch camera." I opened the feed. Callie moved fast. Suitcases slammed shut. Trash bags piled with clothes. She didn't fold anything. Just shoved and zipped. Grayson paced behind her arms, waving. No sound, but you could tell he was yelling. She didn't look at him once. I poured coffee. Kept watching. The front light flickered as a rideshare pulled up. Callie dragged 2 bags across the stone path. One of the wheels caught. Flipped. She didn't stop. Just kicked it forward and yanked open the car door. No hug. No backward glance. She left him standing alone on the porch. He stared at the car until the taillights disappeared. Then he sat down on the step, hands in his hair, shoulders slumped like he'd aged in minutes. I didn't feel triumph. Not then. Just weight. The kind of weight that settles after years of being ignored, erased, disrespected, and finally being seen for exactly what you'd carried. I closed the feed, opened the binder, slid another copy of the deed into a fresh envelope, labeled it for the county. Roland would file it in the morning, and by evening, the lock change order would go through. I shut the account down before sunrise. The trust Marco left for family contingencies had one name still tied to it, mine. Callie had been quietly siphoning off that fund for months. Flights. Furniture. One charge to a spa in Palm Springs. The bank clerk's voice had trembled when she confirmed it. I didn't flinch. "Freeze it," I said. Effective immediately. By noon, Tess texted, "She's coming." Callie showed up at the estate gates in heels too high and desperation too loud, her lipstick smudged, bag clutched tight, eyes darting. Tess met her at the side gate. Body cam pinned inside her blazer. No smile. No handshake. "You," Callie hissed. "You need to fix this." Tess crossed her arms. "Fix what?" Callie leaned in. "You have access. The account froze this morning. It's temporary, right? You can unflag it. Quietly. No one has to know." Tess didn't blink. "It's not temporary." Callie laughed. Sharp fake. "Okay. Look, I know things were said, but if you help me, I'll make sure you're taken care of." Tess raised an eyebrow. "Taken care of." Callie dug into her purse, pulled out a check already signed. 10,000. Just reverse the hold. Tess didn't touch it. "Anything else?" Callie rolled her eyes. 15. "That's all I have access to." Tess hit the button on her watch. The small red light blinked once. "I hope you're recording this," Tess said, "because bribery's a lovely bonus on top of fraud." Callie froze, mouth open, then rage flooded in. "You think she's some kind of hero," she snapped. "She was nothing before Marco died. She wore old shoes to Thanksgiving." Tess held firm. "And you'll be wearing the same ones soon." Callie lunged like she might snatch the check back. Tess stepped away. "She's bluffing," Callie muttered. "You're bluffing." "No," Tess said flatly. "You're broke." Callie turned on her heel and stormed off down the gravel path. The heels wobbled. One snapped. She didn't stop. Back inside, Tess sent the footage to Roland. Then to me. I didn't smile. I didn't sigh. I forwarded it to the Attorney General's office. Then I brewed a fresh pot of coffee. I turned off the front light. Grayson's car rolled in just after dusk. Headlights off. No music. Just the crunch of tires on gravel. He parked halfway up the drive like he wasn't sure if he had permission to finish the distance. I didn't move. He stepped out slowly. No jacket. Just a sweatshirt sleeves pulled over his hands like a boy who forgot how to be warm. He stood at the base of the steps for a minute, looked up, tried to see through the windows. I stayed behind the curtain, still, silent. He climbed the stairs, knocked once, then again. "Mom," he said. Not loud, not forceful, just barely there. "Please." I didn't open the door. He sat down on the top step. I watched from the hallway, lights off. Arms crossed, back straight. The cold crept in around him. He shifted, rubbed his arms, hunched over. Another knock, then a softer one. "I messed up," he said. "I know that." No reply. I didn't mean for it to go that far. We were trying to build something. I thought you didn't care anymore. The wind answered. Not me. A long pause. Then she said, "You didn't need it. That you were losing things. That I should protect what was left." I closed my eyes. Just for a second. He kept going. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. It was easier. The porch creaked as he stood again. Pacing now. One step, two back. "I don't have her anymore. She's gone. Took everything. Bank account's dry. The apartment's not in my name. She was planning it the whole time." I didn't flinch. He sat again. "I have nowhere else to go." Still I waited. He cried. Quiet at first. Then full body, shoulders heaving sobs. Not the kind you fake. Not the kind you save for effect. The kind that comes when there's nothing left but bone. I watched until his breathing slowed. He waited another half hour. Then stood. Shuffled down the steps. Got in the car. Didn't drive away. Just sat with the engine off. Lights dim. Steam curling from the vents. I walked into the kitchen. Filled the kettle. Let it boil. Outside the porch, light stayed dark. I signed the last document before the mail truck arrived. Straight lines. Full name. No hesitation. The envelope was thick 3 notarized pages, a declaration of revocation, and a name change order. I sealed it. Pressed the flap down hard. This one didn't go to Grayson. It went to the courthouse. No more joint anything. No fallback clause. No ambiguous clause about reconciliation or temporary rights. Just my name. Then the new one. The Marco Trust Center for Elder Justice. I carried the envelope myself. No assistant, no driver. Just me and the short walk down the hill to the black iron mailbox by the gate. I lifted the lid. Dropped it in. Let it land with a final thud. Behind me, wind stirred through the trees. Inside the house, Tess and Roland finished moving the last boxes into the study. The space where Marco's portrait now hung. The same one I'd tucked away after the funeral. Now framed, centered, hung straight. On the door, a new plaque, brushed steel. The Marco Trust Center for Elder Justice, private legal and housing aid. No ribbon cutting, no gala. Just a quiet room, 2 desks, and a mission. I walked through the hallway slowly. The echo sounded different, now lighter. Upstairs, I opened the storage closet and pulled down the last box labeled Grayson. Old drawings, report cards, a pair of shoes he wore in 7th grade. I didn't cry. I placed the box by the back door. Called a donation center. Someone else would need it more. Before sunset, I walked the perimeter of the house, checked the locks, adjusted the blinds, fed the cat, poured one last cup of coffee. No cream, no sugar, just steam and heat. I sat by the kitchen window. Outside, the light turned gold. I watched it spill across the lawn, across the gravel path, up to the mailbox, where the final piece of paper now waited to be carried far from me and made official. Tomorrow it would clear, and the name would change forever. I brewed the coffee strong. No rush. No voices behind me. No one asking when the milk expires or if I paid the gas bill or why the heat clicks on too early. Just the click of the burner, the steady drip, the scent curling into the hallway like a quiet flag. I pulled down one mug. White, clean, heavy in the hand. I set it on the table where the morning light hit just right. Still mine. 2 words, black print, no decoration. I poured the coffee, sat. Steam rose in thin lines. I let it hit my face, closed my eyes, listened. No knocking, no crying on the porch, no urgent voicemails. Just birds outside and the faint shuffle of leaves. Across the kitchen, the binder still sat closed. No need to open it again. The papers inside had done their job. So had I. The house was quiet, but not empty. Marco was here. Not in body, not in voice. But in the floors he chose. The wide windows he insisted on. The drawer with his backup keys. The sealed envelope that started it all. He knew. He saw this coming before I did. I took a slow sip. Not bitter, not sweet. Just mine. The mug warmed both hands. A truck rolled down the far hill. I didn't look, just let it pass. No one was coming here unless invited now. A thin file sat on the counter. Next week's intake. 2 women. 1 man. All elderly. All evicted. No family left or worse family still present but cruel. We'd help them. Quietly. Like Marco helped me. I looked around the kitchen. Nothing grand. Nothing fancy. But every part of it had been taken from me once. Every drawer, every cabinet, every inch of tile. And now still mine. I took another sip, let the silence settle, and kept the seat warm.